Hey, John Lee here. So, this is your stimulus update for Saturday, April 10th, 2021. As you can see, I'm using this cool new software by Bandicam. It's a screen recorder sharer um, type of uh, software where I can actually show you what I'm looking at while we're doing these videos. So, this video is not sponsored by them. So, whatever you do, be sure and like and subscribe this channel. Welcome back to those of you who are my subscribers, and welcome to those of you who are not. Don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. So let's just check out some news. Let's check out some stimulus check update and see what we see for this afternoon. We got some stimulus check stuff going on here. Plus, stimulus check IRS say Social Security recipients should get their checks on April 7th. That sounds like old news to me. Let's just punch that. And let me go back here. I think I was actually stimulus check update 10 minutes ago. Let's see what that says. This is on Yahoo News. Stimulus check update. When will plus up payments arrive? Answers to your COVID relief questions. I think this is something a lot of people were wanting to know. For those last minute tax filers who were rushing to get their returns done, there's good news. You've been given a 1-month reprieve. Tax day 2021 has been pushed back to May 17th from April 15th without penalties and interest, giving Americans more time to file their returns as the IRS implements sweeping tax code changes from the latest COVID-19 relief package. Again, that deadline has been pushed back to May 17th, and some of you may need to amend your return. So you need to really talk to your tax person about that. Remember, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a tax preparer. I'm just a YouTuber that wants everyone to, be prosperous and happy. It's a busy time. Many Americans have tons of questions about their stimulus checks, taxes, and unemployment aid after the American Rescue Plan became law. So far, more than 156 million payments have been sent to Americans in the third round. I've kind of been wanting to know about the unemployment tax exemption and how that was going to affect my overall stuff. The unemployment tax break, the IRS tax refunds to start in May for $10,200 tax break. The IRS is sending stimulus checks on a weekly basis now. Some Americans are eligible for plus-up payments from the agency, which will correct any changes to money that are owed based on their 2020 tax returns, which is something I was saying in my videos a couple days ago. Many people are rushing to get their returns done so they can qualify for the latest stimulus aid, and they have questions like, is it best to file now? Can I still file my return to qualify for a third stimulus check? When will I get a plus-up payment? See, I was wondering that myself. Is this all something that's going to end up getting pushed back to something that you're going to have to file, in 2022? Taxpayers are also grappling with questions on everything from unemployment waivers to child tax credits. And others want to know when they need to pay their state taxes or if they face refund delays. So I need to get my state paid, which now, because of the unemployment tax exemption, I'm going to send them about half of what I was going to send them before. But when will plus-up payments arrive? The fourth batch of payments made under President Joe Biden's American Rescue Plan included more than 1 million plus-up payments, worth more than $2 billion for people who were eligible for additional money now that their 2020 tax return have been processed, the IRS said Wednesday. Let's see, we're going to have to continue this story, ain't we? In some cases, a person could be eligible for a new or bigger payment based on their recently processed tax returns. These ongoing supplemental payments would apply to those who had already received stimulus money earlier in March, but the initial payment was based on a 2019 tax return, not the 2020 return that had been recently filed. So that's good to know. The plus-up payments will continue on a weekly basis going forward, the IRS said, as the agency continues processing tax returns from 2020 and 2019, which I still need my 2019 amended return. That would be great. That should have been like $700. So be checking your mailboxes. These are taxpayers or households who either did not qualify for a third stimulus check based on their 2019 income or got less than they were due. Which I did hear they were sending out interest on that, so that's kind of neat. How will the IRS send the plus up payments? If you received your stimulus payment via direct deposit, that's likely how you will get the plus up money. If the IRS doesn't have your information, you may receive a paper check instead, tax experts say. If you haven't filed your 2020 return yet, just get it in, recommends Dina Pyron, global leader of EY Tax Chat, a tax prep service from Ernst & Young. Once you file your 2020 tax return and you qualify for the $1,400 for you, your family, and dependents, those payments will either be deposited directly into your bank account or you will get an additional check, which is, I think, why I got that email from H&R Block. So who qualified for the third stimulus check? The payments amount to $1,400 for a single person or $2,800 for a married couple filed jointly, plus an additional $1,400 for each dependent child. Individuals earning up to $75,000 get the full payments, as will married couples with incomes up to $150,000. Payments decline for incomes above those thresholds, phasing out above $80,000 for individuals and $160,000 for married couples. If you are a head of household and not married, how does your stimulus payment change? That's a good question. A head of household taxpayer isn't eligible if their income is $120,000 or greater, although there is a phase out between $112,500 and $120,000. Otherwise, a head of household will receive a $1,400 stimulus payment for themselves and each qualifying dependent with a Social Security number, regardless of age, according to Mark Steber, Chief Tax Information Officer at Jackson Hewitt. I don't know much about Jackson Hewitt, but if you do, be sure and drop a comment if you like them or dislike them. Let me know. Do I still have a shot at qualifying for a third check if I file now? If you didn't qualify for the third round of stimulus checks based on 2019, but you do qualify based on 2020, the next step is to file your 2020 taxes as soon as possible, tax experts say. If the IRS processes it in time, they'll use the most recent year to qualify taxpayers for the third round of economic stimulus payments. Filing a tax return early is always a best practice and proven this year with the stimulus checks to those who have already filed. As to filing now and still getting a check, the IRS has not detailed timing and impact, but it is certainly possible, especially if your tax situation changed from 2019 to 2020, which a lot of people's situations change. So I think that's something that they definitely need to get a grip with because people's situations change all the time. If I don't qualify for the stimulus-based check based on my 2019 income, but I do based on 2020, can I appeal to the IRS if they've already sent my check? I thought they had till like December to get them all out of 2021, so I think they need to just get it done. The IRS has until the end of the year to issue the stimulus payments for 2021. Exactly, and we'll be reviewing returns for 2020 as the agency continues processing tax returns. Additional payments will be made, tax experts say. If you haven't filed your 2020 taxes, but believe you qualify based on your income levels, you should file your 2020 taxes to ensure the IRS has the latest information. The IRS will continue to process stimulus payments weekly, including any new returns recently filed. If you still don't receive a stimulus, the IRS said they will reconcile this sometime this year, according to Curtis Campbell, president of TaxAct, a tax preparation software. If the 2020 return hasn't processed for some reason, the IRS will go off 2019 return information. Then, after tax season, if someone files their 2020 tax return and it is processed, the IRS will do a true up of the check between 2019 data and 2020 data, says Campbell. For those who didn't get a check based on their 2019 income, file a 2020 return and the IRS will recover their payment based on their updated return. IRS Commissioner Charles Rettig said last month during testimony on Capitol Hill. Can I claim the recovery rebate credit on my 2021 taxes if I never receive a third check? Yes. If you are eligible for a third payment but never receive one, you can claim the recovery rebate on your 21 return next year, according to Tucker. If you are passed over for round 3 because your 2020 tax return hasn't been submitted or processed in time, then you should be able to claim a credit on your 2021 taxes. See, and that was what I was saying would be a huge issue is if people had to actually wait until 2022. I mean, that would just be bogus. Do federal beneficiaries qualify for a check? Yes. Following delays, the largest chunk of payments in the fourth batch made under President Joe Biden's American Rescue Plan went to Social Security beneficiaries. who didn't file a 2020 or 2019 tax return and didn't use the non-filers tool last year, which we went over before. More than 19 million payments totaling more than $26 billion went to these beneficiaries, including Social Security, retirement, survivor, or disability beneficiaries, according to the agency. More than 3 million payments worth nearly $5 billion went to supplemental security income beneficiaries, and nearly $5 billion went to supplemental security income beneficiaries. More than 3 million payments worth nearly $5 million. Okay, and nearly 85,000 payments worth more than $119 million went to Railroad Retirement Board beneficiaries. What about the VA beneficiaries? Payments for VA beneficiaries who didn't file a 2020 or 2019 tax return and didn't use the non-filer tool last year will be dispersed on April 14th, the IRS said. If no additional issues arise, the IRS expects to begin processing these VA payments files at the end of this week, the agency said. Because the majority of these payments will be dispersed electronically, they will be received on the official payment date of April 14th. Is there a maximum number of checks a household can receive, say a family of 10? All dependents are now eligible for stimulus payments in the third round. The payment should include all eligible dependents and will be paid in one lump sum to whoever claims them, according to Tucker. And so that's why I thought some was probably missing from mine. There is no limit defined in the law. However, normal IRS checks and balances probably will trigger a second look with a tax return with 10 family members, but certainly is legal, says Staber. Remember, any individual who is a taxpayer's dependent will not get their own check. Instead, they should be on the parent's return, giving the parent the additional money. Previously, if you had a child over the age of 16 and had an adult dependent, they didn't receive a stimulus. The payments would amount to $1,400 for each dependent child. Eligible families will get a $1,400 payment per qualifying dependent claimed on their tax return, including college students, adults with disabilities, parents, and grandparents. Do I still need to file state taxes by April 15th? Yes, the extended deadline is only for federal income taxes. It doesn't affect a state's income tax deadline, but last year states also eventually pushed back their deadlines after tax day 2020 was extended to July 15th due to the pandemic. So I did not realize that. Today is April 10th. Be sure and get your state taxes off in the mail like ASAP, like Monday morning by noon, no later than. It's important that taxpayers check their state to see if they're moving their deadline. At least 35 states have extended 2020 tax filing and payment deadlines to May 17th, so check with your state on that, according to the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. So somebody somewhere said that's what's up. Which states had their federal taxes delayed until June 15th? Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana residents were previously given a June 15th deadline to file taxes because of the winter storm that swept through there in February. Are estimated tax payments still due April 15th? Yes, the IRS still wants you to make those estimations and pay them some money, even if you don't know what it is. I'm guessing that a lot of people probably won't do that. Is the deadline for retirement and health contributions extended to May 17th? Yes. We'll just say that. Yes. How do I check the status of my payment? Get updates on your status of your next stimulus payment using the IRS Get My Payment tool. To use it, enter your full Social Security number, tax ID number, date of birth, street address, and zip code. But the Get My Payment tool won't be updated until this weekend with information for VA beneficiaries expecting payments next week, the agency said. For those who are eligible, the tool will show a payment status of when the payment has been issued and the payment date for the direct deposit or mail, according to the IRS's frequently asked questions. How do I check the status of my tax refund? You can use the IRS's Where's My Refund tool or the IRS To Go app. When will tax refunds start for the $10,200 employment tax break? So that's a good question. The IRS will begin refunding money to people in May who already filed their returns without claiming the new tax break on unemployment benefits, the agency said. The federal tax break went into effect following the recent changes made by the American Rescue Plan. The legislation allows taxpayers who earn less than $150,000 in adjusted gross income to exclude unemployment compensation up to $20,400 if married filed jointly, or $10,200 for all other eligible taxpayers. The legislation excludes only 2020 unemployment benefits from taxes. So what if you already filed your taxes? For those taxpayers who already have filed and figured their tax based on the full amount of the unemployment insurance, the IRS will determine the correct taxable amount of unemployment compensation and tax, according to the agency. Any resulting overpayment of tax will either be refunded or applied to other outstanding taxes owed, the IRS added. So you better hope you don't owe them any money. For those who have already filed, the IRS will do these recalculations in two phases, starting with those taxpayers eligible for the up to $10,200 exclusion. The IRS will then adjust returns for those marrying filed jointly, taxpayers who are eligible for up to $20,400 exclusion, and others with more complex returns. If you haven't filed yet, the IRS worked with the tax preparation software industry, including TurboTax and H&R Block, to reflect these updates so that those who file electronically need to respond to the related questions when preparing their returns, the agency said. The IRS has stressed that taxpayers shouldn't file an amended return unless the calculations make the taxpayer newly eligible for additional federal credits and deductions not already included on the original tax return, which is something I think that you definitely need to look at because I think mine could be different. So I think I may still need to actually get an amendment. If you filed your return and you actually paid tax on the full amount, don't amend your return, said Pyron. The IRS said they're going to give that refund back to you. What about state taxes for jobless benefits? More than half of the states levy an income tax on jobless benefits. States will have to decide if they will also offer the tax break on state income taxes. I still haven't heard on that. It's possible that some may still opt to tax the jobless aid, experts say. Some already exempt taxes on unemployment, including California, New Jersey, Virginia, Montana, and Pennsylvania. And some don't levy state income taxes at all, including Texas, Florida, Alaska, Nevada, Washington, Wyoming, and South Dakota. And so a lot of people have been wondering about the expansion of the child tax credit. Is the child tax credit expanded? And the answer is yes. The American Rescue Plan included a temporary increase for the child tax credit for 2021. The credit is worth $2,000 per child under 17 that can be claimed as a dependent. It temporarily boosts the credit to $3,000 per child or $3,600 per child under 6. It allows 17-year-old children to qualify for the first time. The credit will begin to phase out for those earning more than $75,000 a year or $150,000 for those married filing jointly. The IRS will look to prior year tax returns to determine who qualifies for the higher credit. If a return for 2020 hasn't been filed yet, the agency will look to 2019 returns. This credit is for tax year 2021, says Green Lewis. The IRS hasn't issued full guidance yet, but they're expected to start issuing advance payments sometime in July so that people don't have to wait until they file their 2021 returns. We're still living paycheck to paycheck. I think we all know that. How likely is the fourth stimulus check? Don't hold your breath. According to Wall Street analysts, I think it's unlikely at this time. Raymond James analyst Ed Mills told CNBC. One reason is that the Biden administration is focused on advancing its $2 trillion infrastructure plan, which would reshape the economy by rebuilding aging schools, roads, and airports, as well as investing in projects ranging from affordable housing to broadband. Looking at kind of expanding some of those areas. The proposal, which the White House says would be funded by boosting the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%, may be tougher to pass than the relief bill that provided the $1,400 checks to most Americans because of opposition from both Republicans and some Democrats, noted Stifel Chief Washington Policy Strategist Brian Gardner last month. So that's the only way that they would get it to go through would be through a reconciliation where they would still need at least all of the Democrats to vote in support of it. And so if even one disagrees, it would, that's why they're talking about trying to get rid of the filibuster. Even so, only about 1/3 of the Americans believe the American Rescue Plan will help them a lot, according to a new poll from the Politico Harvard. That suggests some households feel they need more aid to help get through the next several months. That's what people are saying. They're going to go through, pardon me, they're going to go through this $1,200, $1,400, $600, in a matter of a few months. And then what? So people are still, having to figure it out. That help could this summer when many households will get a form of additional stimulus aid when families with children under 18 will get direct payments for 6 months through the revised child tax credit, which I don't think that we're for sure on how that's being rolled out yet. From July through December, families with children under 6 will get $300 per month, and those with kids between 6 and 17 will receive $250 per month per child. Many people are going to be surprised when that first check comes in. Nassif said that obviously is going to add to the surge in popularity for the checks, which is another, good topic to think about. Vaccination-fueled rebound. I've been hearing a lot of talk about vaccination passports being required. So if anybody's heard anything about that, be sure and drop it in the comments below. But that's that's a neat little stimulus check update on. I've been meaning to talk about when there might be a possibility of a fourth check, and um, we kind of talked about the plus up payments a little bit, and so you guys could still be seeing that about a week after you get your tax refund. Let me know if you've got your tax refund or not, or your return processed, or what step you're in. Love to find out. Don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button if you like videos like these. I'm just trying out this new screen sharing software that I got, and I hope that you like it. And if not, drop some comments in the below. Tell me what you think. So that's the stimulus package update I got for you. Today's Saturday. It's April 10th, 2021 in the afternoon. Don't forget, if you like videos like this, be sure and hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. I'm John Lee. I'm on to the next one.